I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little, but The Nightmare Before Christmas Oogie's Revenge is one of the most frustrating games I've ever played. But to understand why this game was such a disappointment, I want to take you back to 2005. I was huge into my PS2 phase and just got done replaying Kingdom Hearts for the millionth time. With Kingdom Hearts 2 only a year away from release in North America, I was anxiously waiting to get back into the world of Disney again. To my surprise, however, while I was wandering around the local GameStop at my mall, I saw advertisements for a new Nightmare Before Christmas game. I begged my mom to pre-order it for me, seeing as The Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favorite movies of all time, and how can you blame me? With its gorgeous animation, catchy songs, memorable characters, and unique art style, The Nightmare Before Christmas is a movie that just gets better and better with age. But Oogie's Revenge is a different beast altogether. The game advertises itself as a full-fledged sequel to the original movie and was developed by Capcom of all people. Yeah, the developers of Mega Man, Street Fighter, and Resident Evil. Apparently, The Nightmare Before Christmas has a huge cult following in Japan, so with Capcom behind the wheel, it was really a no-brainer. I mean, they developed tons of great Disney games in the past, so what could go wrong? Well, where do I start? Oogie's Revenge takes place 1 year after the events of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Having just concluded another successful Halloween, Jack Skellington, being the perfectionist that he is, yearns for that certain spark that'll make next year's event that much spookier. After consulting with Dr. Finkelstein, Jack comes into possession of a new invention dubbed the Soul Robber, a gelatinous thingamajig that attaches itself to his arm. With his inspiration renewed, Jack decides to leave Halloween Town in search of new ideas. Little does he know, however, that the local tricksters, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, overheard this news and plan to bring Jack's old nemesis, Oogie Boogie, back to life. However, Sally catches wind of their scheme and— wait a minute! Sally still lives with the Doctor? If this is supposed to be a sequel, where's the Doctor's new assistant? You know, the one that Dr. Finkelstein created for the sole purpose of replacing Sally? Did the developers not even watch the movie that this game is supposedly based on? Anyways, things take a turn for the worse, because upon Jack's return, he finds Halloween Town abandoned and swarming with angry skeletons at every turn. After rescuing Mr. Hyde and a few of the other townsfolk, Jack discovers that not only is Oogie back, but he brainwashed Dr. Finkelstein and plans on kidnapping the other holiday leaders so he can become king of the 7 holidays. With the Soul Robber in hand, Jack must now fight through Oogie's army, get the Doctor back to normal, track down the missing holiday doors, and return the holiday leaders to their worlds before Oogie has a chance to rule over them all. Giving credit where credit is due, Oogie's Revenge definitely has a lot going on in terms of story, and with most of the original films' cast reprising their roles, the game is an absolute joy to watch. To play it, on the other hand, that's where things start to go downhill. I think it's time we finally address the elephant in the room. Yes, the gameplay for Oogie's Revenge largely resembles that of Capcom's own Devil May Cry. The game is split into a total of 24 chapters, each rewarding the player with a ranking system if they manage to complete a specific set of criteria at the end. This means beating the chapter really fast, getting a huge combo, surprising the enemy enough times to get an exclamation point, and taking very little damage while doing so. Sounds like a cakewalk, right? Well, it isn't, and here's why. Using the Soul Robber, Jack can attack enemies by whipping them Simon Belmont style, or grabbing them and throwing them at other enemies. By combining both your standard attacks and grabs, you can perform combos to better deal with larger crowds. Here's the biggest issue though, you have no additional combos other than the ones you start off with. You can do a standard 2-hit using the square button, a spinning move by twisting the control stick in a circle, and a grab to slam enemies on the ground with the triangle button. However, you have a limited amount of times that you can slam down an enemy with the Soul Robber, as indicated by the color change slowly going from green to red. But other than that, the Soul Robber's potential is never fully realized over the course of the game. As a result, the core gameplay of Oogie's Revenge feels really dull. I understand that the game is for kids, but in a game like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta for example, the fun and challenge of those games is purchasing and learning new combos so you can become stronger. Yes, those games are incredibly difficult, but they're designed around that difficulty. They reward you with new tools and abilities that can better help you deal with the enemy the more you play. But here, Jack only gets 2 major upgrades in the form of the Pumpkin King and Santa Jack. The Pumpkin King allows Jack to transform into a scarecrow capable of breathing fire. Ooh, like in the movie! If you press the triangle button, he'll ignite a fiery blast that damages anyone caught in it. However, the Pumpkin King can't be used all the time. Using his moves consumes red souls, and you have a limited number of them. To refill the red soul gauge, you'll have to purchase some from the witch's shop in town alongside blue souls. Blue souls will temporarily increase the Soul Robber's damage output, which makes larger crowds and bosses a total cakewalk. As for Santa Jack, yeah, he sucks. The only major thing you can really do with him is throw Christmas presents out to surprise enemies, as a few of them will often hide inside pumpkins, trash cans, and snowmen to ambush you. But to be perfectly honest, you can get through most of the game without using either of these two transformations at all. There's maybe 1 or 2 times in the entire game it was required to use the Pumpkin King, and Santa Jack I almost never used. But here's the kicker though. You can upgrade the Soul Robber, but the changes are so minuscule it's not even worth it. All it does is just change your 2-hit combo into a 4-hit combo. That is ridiculous. The game doesn't make any sort of point to tell you can make your Soul Robber stronger. So how did I know that you could? Because I had to look up a set of cheat codes that not only automatically upgrade the Soul Robber to its max potential, but also gives the Pumpkin King unlimited red souls. But what kind of design is it that you can end up going through an entire playthrough without ever witnessing those options being available to you? Why was there such a need to dumb down the combat system to something so basic? It's already easy enough to get huge combos in this game just from twirling your ass off like a ballerina, so why limit players with such a small moveset? However, combat isn't the only thing you do in Oogie's Revenge. The game likes to sprinkle platforming sections here and there to shake things up. The problem with that is that this game wasn't built for platforming. Granted, that's a common criticism for character action games like Oogie's Revenge and Devil May Cry, but at least Dante had a f***ing jump button. Jack can't jump at all. He can only use a dodge maneuver that's performed by pressing the circle button in rapid succession. But in the moments where the game wants you to precisely jump onto a platform with it, it's next to impossible to control where you're gonna land, because if you so much as inch the control stick away from anywhere but dead center, you're gonna do this mid-air twirl instead. So you have to slowly get yourself into position first, and then press the circle button. If by some miracle you manage to get past the gimp platforming in Oogie's Revenge, you'll actually find that there's a variety of collectibles hidden throughout the game. Other than the Soul Robber, the only other upgrades in the game are golden pumpkins that extend your health, and crystal bottles that can hold spring water from the fountain in Halloween Town Plaza. Most of the golden pumpkins are easy to spot because they're out in the open, but crystal bottles are a little bit tougher. Like the pieces of heart in Zelda, you have to collect 4 crystal skulls and trade them in at the witch's shop in order to obtain them. If you want to max out Jax's stats, however, that's where things get really tricky. Because most of the collectibles' hiding places are relatively cryptic, you probably won't find them on your first playthrough without a guide, and good luck trying to buy any of them. The prices for these items are outrageously high, and if you want to get any of them, you'll have to save up as much as possible. However, if you manage to die and get a game over, you'll have to spend some precious coins to continue, thus lowering your chance of getting the upgrade you wanted. Otherwise, you'll have to restart the current chapter you're in from the beginning. So it's best to heed Mr. Hydes' advice and save your game as often as possible so as not to lose a lot of progress. But that's not even the worst of it. As I mentioned before, the fountain in the plaza will heal you when you drink its water. But if you get to a point where you used up the reserves you had in your crystal bottles, the only way you're going to heal is by backtracking to the fountain. Given that some stages take you a ways away from the plaza, it can take a while to go all the way back just to heal. This wouldn't be such a problem, but the game is incredibly stingy with health pickups if you're playing on normal mode or higher. Case in point, Chapter 11, Peril in the Pumpkinhead. In this chapter, you have to survive 3 stages worth of battles before getting to the boss fight with Peril. If you used up all of your crystal bottles, then you're gonna have to survive this chapter with just 1 health bar, and let me tell you, it is the biggest pain in the ass. Not only because of the aforementioned enemies hiding in pumpkins, but because of these stupid ghosts who can go outside the boundaries of the fighting arena. Look at this! I can't grab them with the Soul Robber because they're completely out of bounds. Moments like this will have you begging, pleading for something, anything, but the game will almost never give it to you. This basically meant that I had to travel all the way back to the fountain just so that way I can heal, and then go all the way back to the Pumpkinhead just to get another shot at fighting Peril. As a result, this chapter took me well over an hour just to beat, and at that point, I was about ready to give up on the game. I was that frustrated. Now, here's my question. Why can't I heal at the save points provided by Mr. Hyde? He's perfectly capable of doing it because near the end of the game, he can refill your bottles and heal you in Christmas Town. So why not when I'm in Halloween Town? Is he just lazy? The gameplay isn't all bad though. The boss fights are a highlight and are easily some of the most fun you'll have in the game. In the spirit of the movie, each boss fight has a musical number with some of the original songs from the film being adapted with new lyrics to better suit the story. There's even a new song created for the Doctor during his fight. It's awful. Attacking the boss will cause him to drop these glowing musical notes. Collect enough of them and you'll enter a rhythm section where you'll have to press the on-screen buttons in time to the beat. This can be really challenging later on, but at least it gives me a break from the monotonous gameplay and requires some amount of skill. Except for the final boss fight with Oogie. Usually during the rhythm sections, even if you miss a certain amount of notes, you'll do damage to the boss regardless of how well you did. That's not the case in the final boss battle, however. For every note you miss, you lose a piece of your health. So it's a matter of surviving until the end. But look at this madness! You expect little kids to have the reflexes to be able to do this? It doesn't help that failing this part of the battle will send you back to the very beginning of the chapter, which means you'll have to redo the first phase all over again. This isn't too much of a problem because the first phase of Oogie's fight is pretty easy and relatively fun to do. But f***, man, no checkpoints? I don't mind a challenge, but some of these patterns are ridiculous. But the granddaddy of all that is wrong with the design of this game can be summed up with one area: the Hinterlands. After collecting all of the holiday doors, you must traverse through the Hinterlands and replace these Oogie doors with the correct ones to return the holiday leaders to their worlds. However, this place was designed to do nothing more than test your patience because nothing, I repeat, nothing in this place makes any goddamn sense. Paths never lead to where you think they will, and in order to return the holiday doors to the correct tree, you have to survive an onslaught of enemies under a certain amount of time. Unless you have the unlimited red souls cheat activated, I honestly think that it'd be impossible to pass some of these normally, and believe me, I tried. The Thanksgiving door in particular can go f*** itself for all I care. It's an army of never-ending skeletons, and I tried everything I could to beat it under the time limit. I tried using blue souls to power up the soul robber. I tried what little red souls I had to unleash the Pumpkin King. Nothing worked, and every attempt ended in me having to leave the Hinterlands, go all the way back to Halloween Town, and purchase more souls at the witch's shop. It was at this point that I had to look up a guide to get myself back on the right path through the woods to beat the chapter, because if you attempt to get through this stretch of the game without one, you're gonna have a miserable time. Unfortunately, the backtracking issue doesn't end there. The rest of the game you'll be tasked with completing a bunch of fetch quests for all the denizens of Halloween Town. Need to give Igor a dog biscuit so he can let you pass and get to the doctor? Backtrack to the witch's shop. Need a tool to stop this out-of-control unicycle for the clown? Backtrack to the doctor's lab. Need to find the vampire brothers and turn them back to normal? Collect them, backtrack to their house, and place them in their coffins. Now, let me ask another question. What's the point of the ranking system if the game requires you to go back and forth so often? Chances are, unless you've beaten the game and are trying to get S ranks on repeat playthroughs, you're not going to get a high ranking the first time around due to the amount of backtracking the game requires you to do. Imagine being a kid, like me, who picked up the game because they were a fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now imagine just trying to play through the game normally only to find yourself getting discouraged by the rank you just got just because you didn't do something fast enough. If this game is supposed to be an introduction to younger players to the action game genre as a whole, then why punish them with a ranking system like that in the first place? It just doesn't make any sense. Over the course of 9 hours, I struggled to see Oogie's revenge to the end. And what was my reward for finishing the game with an overall C rank? A costume for Jack in his pajamas. Now, does this costume do anything? No. Does it give you any sort of advantages and disadvantages in combat? No. Does it unlock New Game Plus? No. The answer is that it does absolutely nothing. By this point, you're probably wondering, is there anything I find redeemable with Oogie's Revenge? Well, yes. By far, the most amount of love and attention went into the game's presentation. All the major locales from the movie are faithfully recreated here, and it's just a joy to traverse through. The team definitely nailed the Tim Burton aesthetic. While the depressing grays of Halloween Town do get a little tiring after a while, there are a few other locations that are really pleasing to the eye. I especially love the look of the Hinterlands, that black and white sketchy look with all the spirals like something straight out of Uzumaki. The pumpkin patch is also pretty nice too, with the dark purple skies and the glowing green spring water, just really calming and serene. In comparison to the last game I talked about on here, the music is definitely better since most of it is borrowed from Danny Elfman's score, but the audio editing is atrocious. Since battles go on for longer than the length of the songs themselves, every track is repeated until you progress forward. You will really get sick of This Is Halloween by the time you finish this game because it's the one song out of the entire soundtrack that plays for a majority of battles, and it never stops. On its own, however, the soundtrack is a great listen, just not in the context of the game. On top of that, Jack only has a couple of battle quotes, so get ready to hear this all the time. Despite the lack of variety in the battle quotes, I definitely think the cutscenes and voice acting are top-notch. Almost all the actors from the original movie returned to voice for the game. Chris Sarandon and Ken Page are just as wonderful as before as Jack and Oogie Boogie, even if Chris's singing voice isn't as good as Danny Elfman's. That doesn't really bother me that much though, because the character interactions are wonderful. But that more or less brings up what I think is wrong with the game as a whole. It really felt like the team focused so much on crafting a good sequel with its story and attention to detail that they forgot that they were supposed to be making a game. I really wanted to like Oogie's Revenge. I really did. did. As a fan of the film, there's so much love and attention put into the presentation that it's almost admirable, but the game falls flat on its face in so many other areas. It's one thing if a game is bad because it's incompetently designed, but it's another thing when a game is boring. That, at least in my opinion, can be a whole lot worse, and in the case of Oogie's Revenge, that's the biggest disappointment of all. The story and the music might be great, but I think Oogie's Revenge doesn't have enough in its bones, pun completely intended, to hold your attention for long. I'm giving this one a very cautious recommendation, but only if you're mildly curious. Otherwise, stay away. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my review of The Nightmare Before Christmas Oogie's Revenge for the PlayStation 2. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section down below and let me know what you thought. Until then, see you guys next time, and be good people.